Absolutely. That's gonna hide behind your manager or something. Don't forget to put my turn. I had to catch you.
Good, how are you?
Nice. It was a good, decent day. They're half expensive when you call to say, how much is it?
We'll give something else. So. Where's Forrest at? Probably the bathroom.
Everybody go ahead and turn their mics on now.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the meeting of Bellbrook City Council. Today is Monday, February the 28th, 2022. If you could all stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Rob, if you could call the roll.
Mrs. Cyphers. Mr. Greenwood.
Here.
Mr. Harding.
Here.
Mr. Havens. Mrs. Middlestetter.
Here.
Mayor Schweller.
Here. We have a motion to excuse Councilman Havens tonight. In a second.
I'll second.
Thank you.
On a motion to excuse Mr. Havens, Mrs. Cyphers.
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood.
Yes.
Mr. Harding.
Yes.
Mrs. Middlestetter.
Yes.
Mayor Schweller.
Yes. Before you, we have the minutes of our last meeting, which is February the 14th. Does anyone have any corrections or additions to those minutes?
None, Mayor.
Seeing none, I declare the minutes approved as submitted. Under Mayor's announcements and special guests, tonight we have a couple. First up on the list is County Commissioner Rick Prowlis.
And?
Rick is the Greene County Commissioner, is a former state representative for the 73rd District. I invited Rick to attend tonight to provide us an update of happenings at the county level, and in particular, those that impact the City of Bellbrook. Rick, I appreciate you coming to the meeting, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, hey, Mayor, thank you. Council, thank you. We'll be brief. I want to introduce my colleague, Tom Kugler, the president of the Greene County Commission. It's so important for us to be here, and you guys to know we are here for you. When Tom heard that I was going to speak today, he said, I want to be there. And he's my wingman, so come up here, Tom. First off, let me say, Chief, again, I say, I know they hate losing you, but we love getting you.
Got my voice back if you want me to talk now.
Yeah. That was special. That worked for you.
You know, Scott's going to want that. You're going to want
Is Scott still here? No, he left. Yeah. Okay. Let me say, Kathleen, thank you. So, Mayor, Kathleen showed up at our meeting last week, and all you guys are invited to our commissioners meeting. They're open, and she got to see, good or bad, she'll tell you what we did. So thank you for being there. And I would also like to say to the veterans out here, and I know we have at least two, thank you for your service. And I know there's several. We got one jarhead back there, right? Any other? Thank you, sir. Thank you for your service. It's greatly appreciated. It means a lot to all of us, especially now with what's going on in Europe. Commissioner Kugler and I want to just come for probably 10 minutes, just talk to you about things that we think are happening and you might be interested in, and then maybe have a couple minutes for questions afterwards. if you have any. So I think the first thing to talk about is ARPA. ARPA's big, and it's a once in a lifetime, hopefully only once in a lifetime, right? Opportunity because of the virus. Federal government's given us money. They gave the county $33 million. They gave you guys, Mayor,
760,000.
760.
We could use a little bit more.
Well, we'll talk about all that. It's a 2-year gig, but it has to be authorized by the 2024 and actually billed by 2026. So we have time to get things done. And I compliment you, Mayor, Council, on having that gathering the other day. I was there where you took input from people on what they thought. You did a great job facilitating that. What they thought they could use the money. What was best use of that money for Bellbrook? And you had some real good input. I compliment you on that. As a county, we are spending nearly $10 million on broadband. Some parts of Sugar Creek will probably see that. So the key terms are underserved and unserved. Anyone that's underserved or unserved will be provided this. And we're talking the sticks out in the east side of the county. So in Bellbrook, Beaver Creek, Fairborn, Xenia, we have ways of getting high-speed networks, right? Not so much for us. It'll be for the rest of it, but it'll provide a benefit for everyone out there. So dollars on broadband. We're really excited about this, and that should be starting very soon. And like I said, we'll be paying about $10 million of that, and the state of Ohio will be paying the rest. So again, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and we're taking advantage of it for all those folks out there that have no connection to the internet. We have, let me say that we've contracted a subcontractor, Greentree, to help us put together how we can best use this $33 million. We've already got 16.5. We'll get the other 16.5 in a year, so that we can be in compliance with the strict rules by the federal government, but we can fit the needs of our community, you guys. And that also includes not-for-profit. We've decided, Dick Woold's our other commissioner, he couldn't be with us today, that not-for-profit's something important, and in some instances that will fit the criteria of this money, and we're going to try to do that. And so Bellbrook, I've already talked to your, what's the young lady's name? Kelsey, about that, and she's going to make sure she applies, because she's doing a great job for folks here, especially during the floods, which I heard firsthand. So that money's there. You'll see it. It'll be on our webpage. You'll see where it's going, and if you see something you don't like, come talk to these folks, and they'll talk to us. Good? So I'll introduce Tom to talk a little bit about the jail.
Well, thank you. Couple of things, as Rick said, I'm his wingman tonight, and we're tag teaming. One thing that's very interesting, there's going to be 5 million feet of fiber that's going to be laid in Greene County.
It's a big deal.
5 million feet. That is just unbelievable. And it's going to be to the house. It's not going to be just down the street. That fiber is going to be laid to everyone's, right to their doorstep, which is very unique. When they're done, the Greene County will probably be one of the few counties in the state of Ohio that 99% of the homes in Greene County will have access to fiber. 99%. The impact of that, and Rick and I have talked about that, about the industry and about the kids, the students at school and the universities, and what's going to make a difference. This is going to be a game changer for Greene County.
And we're the first.
That's right. We are the first.
So
and that's,
we're pretty proud of that.
And,
We're taking care of our folks.
we should be, for obvious. We're talking about 10 gigs up or down. They're looking at offering services to 70 to 75% of everybody in Greene County, but 9,600 people that are underserved right now are going to be provided this service. They don't have it. Now this is going to be provided to them for the first time. And as Commissioner Prowse said, we're putting $10 million up to pay for that, towards that. So it's very special. This is probably the most significant thing that's happened in this county for a long time, and a lot of people in Sugar Creek are going to be able to take advantage of that or have that opportunity. So
Which impacts Bellbrook, of course.
that's right.
One and the same.
He
from my
talked.
perspective.
He talked about grant dollars. One of the things that Greene County has done about 4 years ago, we started a grant program, and we've put $10 million, or $2 million, excuse me, wish it could have been 10, $2 million over the last 4 years into grant programs, and about 75,000 into 513Cs over the last 3 years in grant money. And we are continuing that program for 513Cs, and we're continuing that grant program. And right now, I don't know if you mentioned that, Rick, or not, but we have $1 million sitting there in grant dollars available for small businesses. And during the CARES grant, we put in over $100 million into small businesses in Greene County. So we're sensitive to what's going on in our county and small businesses and trying to make it better. And I'll tell you what, I would have nobody else, no better person to work with than the two county commissioners I have right now. I've always said we're like a three-legged stool, and the three of us are making this thing happen. You know,
I don't count.
Yeah, yeah. Just don't get
Look,
let.
but we hooked up your small business person the other day, and your not-for-profit. We want them to connect and put the proper requirements in, so, yeah, good.
Good.
Thank you.
Jail. Unfortunately, we had a hard time comprehending the fact that this levy was turned down. I won't even go into the bits and pieces, but the bottom line is, we don't have a choice. We have to have a jail. We have to build a new jail. This is not a luxury; it's a necessity. And we have figured out how we are going to do a 30-year bond, borrow $30 million, take $10 million out of our general fund that we've been able to put together. And by the way, when I got on board, we had $11 million in cash carryover. This past year, we had $40 million in cash carryover. So the commissioners are watching their dollars and cents. We're putting the money away so that when the rainy day comes, and we are here for that rainy day, that we need to use this for the jail itself. And we're going to be able to probably spend. The jail's probably going to cost, with interest and everything, $50 million. Construction will be $30 million. Interest $20 million is another $20 million. So, but we're going to be able to cover 20 of that $50 million between what we're getting from the government, what we're getting from the program we have now, and also what we have in cash carryover. We need to build a new jail, and even the sheriff has indicated, and Scott has left, but he's indicated that if we don't need, if it means that we build a new jail and he doesn't get new offices, then that's what we need to do. Everybody understands what the necessity is and what the requirement is to build that new jail, and we are committed as commissioners. You want to say something to that?
Absolutely, and I would say that, some people say, why do you need a new jail? They're criminals that we're putting in it. Well, they're not just criminals. The people that take care of those criminals are our brothers, sisters, daughters, sons. We have our people in there, and we have to be humane. And the conditions right now are not. So it's a no-brainer for us that we got to do this, and this is the best way to do it. And what Tom said about being fiscally responsible, we're going to expire some of our bonds, which gives us the opportunity to take some new payments on. So we've got smarter guys than both of us figuring out the financing of this. But rest assured, guys, we're going to get this done.
I tell people when I came in office 9 years ago now, I took a tour of the jail. You couldn't pay me to go back in there. You could not pay me to go back in another tour of that jail. And that's what we need to fix this. And it is, and just as much, not only for those people that are incarcerated, but for the people that are working there. We have a high turnover of personnel within our jail.
They don't make much money.
Because I wouldn't work. I wouldn't work there. I mean, it's just not the best place to be. So we have to fix that. That's our job, and we're going to do it. We're going to make it happen. So, yeah, you want to add to that?
No, you got anything?
Oh yeah, I want to talk about Spring Lakes Park. I mean, this is their backyard. We have spent a lot of money on Spring Lakes Park. We recently replaced the dam control mechanism, which was bad. We added substantial riprap around, and now it's going to be ADA accessible also. The most important thing, though, is that we are going to replace the bridge. And everybody said, well, it doesn't look like it's a problem. I talked to the contractor who was successfully won the contract to replace the bridge. And he said he got down personally himself and got underneath there. He said, Tom, he said the concrete was falling on the ground. The rebarb is showing. He said, I could see light through the bottom of the bridge. The bridge is shut down. The bridge is on order, the supply thing. But that bridge is going to be replaced. It's going to be safe for anybody in Bellbrook and the surrounding area that wants to use Spring Lakes Park, along with the new dam mechanism, so that we can, control the water and so that we're not part of the problem. The point I think that we're both trying to make here, we're here to be part of the solution, and we want to do what we can to fix the program. Whether it be with our nonprofits, whether it be with grant programs, whether it be with small businesses, whether it be with jail, whatever it may be. We're all the three commissioners on the same page to be part of the solution, and we're here to do that. All you gotta do is pick up the phone. If you have a question, pick up the phone, call us. If you have a problem, call us, and we're here to be part of the solution. So.
Tom is right on. I mean, our emphasis here is we're here for you guys. We're a team. If that hadn't been the case before, it is the case now. And we are you showing up at the meeting. We invite you all to come to our meetings and invite us to come to meetings you think we might be able to help. And if you have any questions, like Tom said, call the number. I will say one more thing before we and we're talkers if you can't tell. Before I go, Tom's a vet, I'm a vet. We got several vets up here. The mayor, God bless you, was present 2 years ago.
November 2020 at
Wow,
Wright State.
good memory, dude. And we had a seminar with the commander of the Wright Pat Hospital and the VA director. And we answered all the questions for vets. We know that Bellbrook has a lot of veterans. And so we've set the same thing up for
March 24th,
right here.
4:30 to 6:30 down here at Council Chambers.
Now the base hospital commander can't come; they're locked down, and we get it. But the VA VA director is going to be here, and so if you have family, sir, I don't know if you go to VA, I do. If you have family that needs help from the VA, things like right now they don't know they can get hearing aids. Vets don't realize that, and they can from the VA. So if you have any questions, you have an uncle, aunt, whatever it is, come to that event. We'll be here. It'll be open. The director will be able to hook you up with some of his staff, and we'll figure out what it takes for you guys and us to take care of our vets.
And we're going to advertise and put some more notifications of it on our city website. And believe me, anyone and everyone should attend to it. It's a very interesting exchange. They talked about everything from, if I bring 3 people to the VA, can I get preferred parking or have to park and walk back, to getting the pills, directly picking up prescriptions at the VA versus having the VA mail them, going through Columbus and coming back to Fairborn or wherever they go to. So it was a great interaction, great interchange, and I think it's valuable for everybody who's a vet that has any interest or any questions. It was a good forum for that. Very casual.
Thank you for
So
asking
come
for
prepared to ask questions, absolutely.
This is the top guy at the Dayton VA. So he'll have the answers, or he'll have his people call you with the answers. Mayor, thank you so very much, Tom.
I got one more comment.
Go ahead.
Okay.
As you may or may not know, I was in the garbage and trash business. And I started my business in 1967 in Bellbrook with one customer. And with that, my success grew. So Bellbrook is near and dear to my heart. So, and she had a big part to do with that too. So, thank
you.
you all very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner Paralis, and also Tom Kugler. Thank you. Next up on our agenda is the recognition of Chief Daugherty's service to the community. I do have a proclamation to read now for the viewing audience. We did have a open house beforehand from 4 o'clock till 6, or from, 6 till 7. Very well attended. At that time, we did recognize Chief. A lot of folks made some very comments, and we presented him with a key to the city. But we do have one more brief proclamation. If you could meet me at the podium. City of Bellbrook Certificate of Recognition. This certificate is awarded to Douglas Daugherty in recognition of his dedication and service with the City of Bellbrook, February 28th, 2022. And Doug's last day will be this Friday. Congratulations again, Doug. Good day for you. Good day for Bellbrook.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Doug is going to be the Chief Deputy for Greene County Sheriff Scott Anger, and he'll be starting there soon. Very good. Next up, we have Anastasia Shoup with an update and information about 2022 Sugar Maple Festival. Is she here?
Does not appear so.
No, like she's not. She said she'll be about 10 minutes late.
Okay, thank you. Next up on the agenda is a public hearing of Ordinance 2022-0-2. Councilman Harding. And if anybody in the viewing audience cares to leave now, we will not be offended. You can do as you see fit.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to present ordinance number 2022-0-2, amending Article 15, flood damage prevention of the Bellbrook zoning code. For the purpose and background, FEMA has created a new flood insurance program map as well as some amendments to the floodplain management regulations. The attached ordinance provides for amendments to Article 15 of the Bellbrook zoning code in order to remain compliant to the FEMA regulations. The existing ordinance follows much of the structure of the FEMA regulations. However, some sections are in different order. In order to make it easier for future updates, Article 15 is amended in its entirety to include ordering of sections to align with the FEMA updates. The substance of the addition or amended language is highlighted and bolded in the attached ordinance. And I'm not going to read the entire 22 pages of this, just for everybody's pleasure here.
Thanks, Brady. And I think our city manager has a presentation to go through to sort of summarize the high level for us.
Sure do. Let me, it's just as easy. I'll go ahead and pull up map. Which would be easiest just to refer to as we speak on this. And it's loading. Quite a big packet. Give it just a second.
It was
All,
brief.
all 22 pages of that ordinance is taking its time here for me. There we go. It is, yes.
It's a big file.
And scroll down to the maps. Appreciate your patience. All right. Tab here. All right, as you can see the map, the parcels noted in blue, the dark blue, are the ones that are affected. And all of those addresses have been contacted either by letter delivered by us, also letter delivered by ODNR. As we can tell, all of the addresses that have been noted for a change have been either removed from a 100-year and placed into a 500-year floodplain and or removed altogether. So again, anybody that has had opportunity over the last month or so that we've been speaking about this have hopefully reached out for the resources to verify the information about their own property. The regulation changes are basically updates for the flood insurance or flood insurance program. And what we see here is the flood insurance program map that would denote that. We can't give advice or confirmation regarding whether a homeowner requires flood insurance or not, but we do encourage them to take the information if their parcel has been affected, especially if they were in a 100-year floodplain and are now in a 500-year floodplain. That could change your insurance requirements, and we encourage you to check with your broker and/or FEMA or Ohio Department of Natural Resources regarding that. If anybody, again, does need any assistance in that, feel free to call City Hall and work with us. One of the things with the ordinance tonight is that it is required to be adopted prior to March the 8th, because that is when the new floodplain map goes into effect. So we encourage anybody that has changes to their maps to make sure that they understand what those are and how it may affect them and their insurance prior to the effective date of the map. Again, most of the changes in the ordinance were realignment of sections to match the FEMA regulations and guidelines, and the verbiage that was noted in the highlighted sections, which overall over 22 pages, there's not a lot of changes. It's just more terminology changes based on the updates from FEMA for the floodplain regulations. That's about all I have regarding a presentation for it, unless anybody had any specific questions.
Are there any questions of council? Given this is a public hearing, is there any input from the audience either in favor of or against the ordinance? If you'd like to speak, now's your time. Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. We have a motion regarding ordinance 2022-0-2.
Yeah, I would like to make a motion to approve ordinance number 2022-0-2, amending Article 15, flood damage prevention of the Bellbrook zoning code.
Thank you, Brady. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Forrest.
On a motion to adopt ordinance 2022-0-3, I'm sorry, 2, corrections, 2. Mrs. Cyphers? Mr. Greenwood?
Yes.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Mrs. Middlestetter?
Yes.
Mayor Schweller?
Yes. Thank you, Rob. We have yet another introduction of we have an introduction of an ordinance, not a public hearing, ordinance 2022-0-3. Councilman Cyphers.
I will read the purpose and background as well. There's a need for a supplemental appropriation to cover unanticipated costs, specifically the cost of personnel benefits and medic purchase. Under personnel benefits costs, each year the city provides a payment to employees who do not utilize the health care and other insurance benefits provided by the city. Depending on the eligible use, the payment is less than the cost had the employee used the benefits. This amount was not calculated at the time of the budget creation, as the estimate of users was not done. The renewal period for benefits for the city will occur in the first half of the year. The cost for eligible employee non-benefits use payment is $31,246. In addition, with the resignation of chief, there is an allowable payout of unused time per the personnel manual. The payout calculation is $9,000. The cost of these personnel-related expenses requires additional funds to be appropriated. And then the medic purchase, the estimate cost of the new medic for the development of the CIP budget was $200,000 was submitted. The bids have come in and the quotes received. The actual cost is $72,000 more. The cost of this increase can be covered by a reduction in the fire budget, holding a contingency for capital expenses, and an increase to the capital fund. There is a net zero to the current appropriations for the adjustment.
Thank you, Catherine. Rob, anything to add?
Yeah, that explains it, just noting that the actual increase is $40,246. And as noted on the last comments there, the adjustment for the increased cost in the medic was an adjustment within capital, and because some of those funds will not be used this year, due to the fact that we won't be spending the money until next year or when the actual equipment comes in to be delivered. So not effect of an increase or need for an increase for that particular item, but for the payroll expenses, yes.
Okay. Any questions or discussion of council on the introduction?
And one other thing I would note that it is written to be approved at introduction tonight, if council would consider that.
Okay. Yeah, it's declared an emergency as well. Any other questions of council? Could I have a motion regarding ordinance 2022-0-3?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2022-0-3.
Thank you. And a second?
Seconded?
Thank you, Brady.
On a motion to adopt ordinance 2022-0-3, Mrs. Cyphers,
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood,
Yes.
Mr. Harding,
Yes.
Mrs. Middlestetter,
Yes.
Mayor Schweller.
Yes. Thank you. We've got a couple of resolutions this evening. First off is Resolution 2022-R-8, authorizing the city manager to negotiate and enter into an agreement for the sale of land to the Bellbrook Sugar Creek Parks District. Councilwoman Middlestetter, please.
Thank you. Resolution number 2022-R-8. Whereas, through Resolution 2018-N, the city accepted parcels of parkland and open space from the Highview Terrace development. And whereas the Bellbrook Sugar Creek Parks District desires to acquire the land to enhance the parkland, open space, and operations of the parks for the benefit of Bellbrook residents. And whereas City Council has determined that the subject real property is not needed for any municipal purpose, and it is in the best interest of the City of Bellbrook to sell the land to the Bellbrook Sugar Creek Park District. Now therefore, the City of Bellbrook hereby resolves, Section 1, the city manager is authorized to execute a purchase and sale agreement for the sale of approximately plus or minus 11.68 acres of land, comprised of parcel ID. Do you have to read all those?
No.
Okay, good.
It'll be on the website if you want the parcel ID.
And substantially upon the terms and conditions set forth in the agreement at a price not to exceed $1. Section 2, that it is found and determined that all formal actions of the City Council relating to the adoption of this resolution were adopted in an open meeting of this council, and that all deliberations of this council and any of its committees that resulted in such formal action were in meetings open to the public in compliance with all legal requirements, including Section 121.22 of the revised code of the state of Ohio. Section 3, that this resolution shall take effect and be enforced forthwith.
Thank you, Elaine. Rob, anything to add on Resolution 2022-R-8?
As part of the development agreement with Highview Terrace, back in 2018, the city agreed to accept property that was identified as green space in accordance to that development. The deeds are in process. Once those deeds are approved, we will get those recorded. The Park District has expressed interest, and they are obviously the right entity to manage any open and green space with our MOU and with our partnership with them. They are eager to be able to make good use of that, interconnect that with McGee Park sometime soon, and they actually have a grant application that they are going to seek with the deadline of that coming up soon, which they're very pleased that we're taking this action now because that benefits the potential for the grant. So considering that, we would ask you consider the resolution for adoption tonight.
Very good, thanks. Any discussion amongst council, Resolution 2022-R-8?
I think it's an awesome idea.
I agree, 100%.
It's a win-win for everybody.
Yes. We have a motion then regarding Resolution 2022-R-8.
I move that we adopt Resolution 2022-R-8.
Thank you, Elaine. And a second?
Seconded?
Thank you, Brady.
On a motion to adopt Resolution 22-R-8, Mrs. Cyphers,
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood,
Yes.
Mr. Harding,
Yes.
Mrs. Middlestetter,
Yes.
and Mayor Schweller.
Yes. Thank you. Next up, Resolution 2022-R-9. And I've got to work tonight a little bit. Resolution 2022-R-9, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Maine for the purchase of fire hydrants. Whereas it has been determined that there are certain fire hydrants in the water system that need replacement. Whereas the City Council places a high priority on maintaining city infrastructure in top condition to provide safety within the community. And whereas the City Council has authorized the appropriation of monies in the Capital Improvement Fund of the 2022 budget for the fire hydrant replacement program. Whereas proposals have been received and reviewed for the purchase of the hydrants. Now therefore, the City of Bellbrook hereby resolves, Section 1, the city manager is authorized to take all actions necessary to execute a service agreement and procure 13 hydrants from Corps in Maine for the fire hydrant replacement program within the city limits at a cost not to exceed $35,000. Section 2, that it is found and determined that all formal actions of the council relating to the adoption of this resolution were adopted in an open meeting of this council, and that all deliberations of this council and any of its committees that result in such formal actions were in meetings open to the public in compliance with all legal requirements, including Section 121.22 of the revised code of the state of Ohio, and Section 3, this resolution shall take effect and be enforced forthwith. Anything to add, Rob?
As council would recall, part of the capital improvement plan for this year was replacement of fire hydrants. Although this purchase falls underneath the bidding threshold, we still like to take purchases above $25,000 to council to publicly vet, deliberate, and make sure to ensure transparency for the expenditure of public dollars. We did quote this, and we did go with the lowest of the two available quotes due to the two type of hydrants and manufacturers that fit within our system, and this is the recommended quote to go along and to fit within the already approved budget for the item. So we ask the resolutions considered tonight for adoption.
Thank you. Any discussion amongst council, Resolution 2022-R-9?
I was just curious, is there any lead time issues? Because I've heard rumors of fire hydrants having like 8-month lead times right now.
There's lead time with just about everything. Ryan, do you have a little bit more insight since you're here?
I think Corps in Maine was saying 6 months,
Okay.
but that's across the board within that.
Sure.
And we can last that long? We're fine?
Sure.
Good, thanks. Any more discussion? I'd like to move for the adoption of Resolution 2022-R-9. Got to have a second, please.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Elaine.
On the motion to adopt Resolution 2022-R-9, Mrs. Cyphers,
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood,
Yes.
Mr. Harding,
Yes.
Mrs. Middlestetter,
Yes.
and Mayor Schwaber.
Yes. Thank you, Rob. Next up, our final resolution this evening, Resolution 2022-R-10. Councilman Greenwood, please.
I can't find it.
Should be a printed packet right there for you. What happened?
I don't know.
Here, just go there.
It's got the report, but don't have,
That's odd.
it's not there.
Did not print in the packet?
Service in the background.
Give me 30 seconds. And all other 104 pages.
We have a little notebook up here.
It's not there. We're in the process of converting all to electronic, so we're going to be paperless soon. But right now, we're still using a lot of paper, and you can see tonight with our first public hearing was a lot of paper content.
Lot of. Anastasia's here for the Sugar Maple Festival. I just wanted to let you know. Figured you'd put her in at the end, or
I'll put her in right now.
she's right back here.
She's in the background.
Yeah, she's right back there.
Okay, thanks, Lloyd. Louis just informed me that Anastasia Shoup is here to give us an update on the 2022 Sugar Maple Festival. Anastasia, we got a break in the action right now. If you'd like to speak, you're certainly welcome to give us the update.
Sure. Well, we're having it this year, so that's what's important. I'll just go through a brief agenda. Friday, we start the beer garden at 5 o'clock. It'll kick off the festival with live music. Britches Down will be the country band playing that night. It used to be full frontal, so that'll be interesting. And then on Saturday, we start with the parade at 10:30 in the morning. The 5K will be before that, and it's the new route is in Cable's Mill, and it'll finish at the track at the high school. Right after the parade, all the activities will start. Craft booths will open. The park will open up. And then that night, the beer garden starts at 5 to 10. We added a new brewery this year, Bach Family Brewery, which is a Bellbrook family. Really great place if you haven't been there. We're still going to have Warped Wing and Yellow Springs Brewery, and we will have Heidelberg supply some wine. So we're trying to cover all the bases. And then Sunday, noon to 4, and that's it. Any questions?
Let's pray for good weather. We're looking forward to it.
That's all that matters. Good weather. Good weather.
Thank you for the update. Thank you very
Thanks.
much. Now we have before us copies of Resolution 2022-R-10. Councilman Greenwood, if you are ready.
I'm ready. Thank you, Mayor. Resolution number 2022-R-10. Authorizing the city manager to purchase a medic unit for use by the fire department through the Ohio Cooperative Purchasing Program and waiving the competitive bidding requirements. Whereas it has been determined the city is in need of a replacement medic unit to perform essential tasks within the fire department, and whereas City Council has authorized the appropriation of monies in a capital improvement fund of the 2022 budget for the purchase of a medic unit, and whereas the Ohio State Term Schedule has the equipment listed under currently bid contract. Now therefore, the City of Bellbrook hereby resolves. Section 1. The city manager is authorized to take all actions necessary to procure a medic unit through the Ohio Cooperative Purchasing Program or by direct negotiations at a cost not to exceed $272,000. Section 2. In accordance with Chapter 240 of the Code of Ordinances of Bellbrook, the procurement of this equipment is through a cooperative agreement with another government entity. Therefore, the competitive bidding requirements are hereby waived. Section 3. That it is found to determine that all formal actions of the City Council relating to the adoption of this resolution were adopted in an open meeting of this council, and that all deliberations of this council and any of its committees that resulted in such formal action were in meetings open to the public in compliance with all legal requirements, including 121.22 of the revised code of the state of Ohio. Section 4, that this resolution shall take effect and be enforced forthwith.
Thank you, Forrest. And Rob, if you could give some additional background, I know this relates back to the ordinance on the supplemental appropriation.
That is correct. Again, another item that was approved in the capital improvements budget for this year after discussion, deliberation with council. Once the actual quotes and optioning of the medic unit from the available bidders on the state procurement site came in, the prices were a little higher than what we estimated when we formulated last year the CIP ask. Not to be, I guess, too surprised at that, considering everything else. However, if not ordered by March 10th, it goes up another 18%. So we are in a good position. We were prepared for it. I know the fire department chief Bizarro led a committee of people to really review what would be best for their service needs for the community, and they identified the right piece of equipment. That right piece of equipment just happened to be the one that was lowest and best on the list of 3 that were provided. As noted in the packet, the other bids went from an additional $10,000 up to $317,000 for medic that was appropriately priced. So we do ask that it is considered this evening for adoption so that we can get our name on the list The delivery for this is 15 to 18 months. So it, and again, is not going to be an expenditure out of this year yet, but we do need to go ahead and issue a fiscal officer certificate so that we can make good in a good faith order. So,
Thank you, Rob. Any discussion amongst council on Resolution 2022-R-10?
I'd just like to make a comment, talk with Chief Rosario, reported on it about a month ago. They take this purchase very seriously. They have different, they have some part-time people from different departments, and they all put their heads together to figure out the best piece of equipment that Bellbrook needed. So there was a lot of work in the choice of this piece of equipment. So.
Thank you, Forrest. Thank you, Chief. Any other discussion or comments? We have a motion regarding Resolution 2022-R-10.
I'd like to move resolution number 2022-R-10.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
on a motion to adopt Resolution 2022-R-10, Mrs. Cyphers.
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood.
Yes.
Mr. Harding.
Yes.
Mrs. Middlestetter.
Yes.
And Mayor Schweller.
Yes. Thank you, Rob. Next on the agenda is item 10, reference of legislative proposal to committees. We have gone back and reviewed the rules of council, and this is one of those items that is part of our standard agenda. We don't really have any content for it. Where the process of reviewing the rules of council would probably, this will be deleted, so we'll move on. Item 11, the city manager report. City Manager Schoenberg, the floor is yours.
Good evening. Going to share a presentation here. Actually, it's stuck on the tab. Give me just a moment. Desktop. There we go. And in order, it's police, fire service, zoning, then administration. I've combined the presentation for all the department heads into one just to flow, so we didn't have to load multiple ones. So we will begin with the police department. It looks different, but it's the same information. Same information. Very good.
Hi, City Council. Thank you, Mayor, City Manager. What starts with C and rhymes with Ovid. So unfortunately, that's been a mantra we've been having to deal with this past year. A lot of the things that we typically do, we have not been able to. Those have impacted a couple of the ways that we interact with the public. We're trying to get back to our high standard of service again. Thankfully, with COVID going away, let's hope we can get back
Absolutely.
to that. The first slide there. Some of the things that we're looking forward to in the next year with some of the COVID requirements going away is be more engaged in our traffic enforcement. Over the past year, we took a little bit softer stance on a lot of the violations that we saw, just strictly so we wouldn't have to interact with the public. A lot of things that we saw that were either an equipment violation or something like that, those were typically let slide. We would only address issues that were of an immediate safety concern, something that was blatant, which would result in a traffic stop or interaction with the public. This was done specifically to reduce COVID exposure. So we think that was successful, but at the same time, we also have to maintain safe roadways in the cities. So that's going to pick up in the coming year. Point number 2, we've added a bike officer, Stephanie Bennington. We're looking forward to getting her out on the road with the bike. So now we will have 3 bike officers, which we will have patrolling the city. There's Stephanie back there. She's excited about that. Fantastic tool to interact with the public, to stop and have one-on-one conversations with the people that you meet in your beat or your district that you're patrolling. Find out on a face-to-face basis what's happening in those neighborhoods. Very well received by the public. We're going to step it up with another bike officer, just do Officer Burns and Officer Warren. Those are our 3 officers who are going to be on the bike patrol. We're going to go out of our way to just have more contact with the citizens, get back to doing the neighborhood walks, which were so successful pre-COVID. We had, when we first started those, I remember Doug and I would be walking through the neighborhood and people would come out of their house, oh my gosh, what happened? Why are you in my neighborhood? We just thought we'd walk by and say hi, and they were, oh, well, this is great. And it would start a conversation of things that we would never really even discuss before. Well, you know, about this time, the delivery trucks sure speed down the street. It would sure be nice if we could maybe put a stop sign here, put another speed limit sign up here. Oops, I just broke this. There we go. Put another speed limit sign up. Things that we would never know otherwise. We have a direct impact with the public. So more face-to-face contacts like that. Dedicating more time for patrol officers to speak with residents during their shift, number 4. Again, now that COVID's going away, we can get out of the cars, hopefully not be masked all the time. I think we've had some very good results with Ryan. I know you've stopped a number of times to play badminton with kids in the park. Also stopped the lemonade stands. I think a couple of those postings have gone on our Facebook page. Very successful to just have face-to-face contacts with the public. It's very, very, very important, and goes with the service aspect of why we're here as a police department, to serve our public. Oh, the next one. Calls for police service. This chart shows the number of violations by hour that we experience at the police department. This chart remains pretty much the same year to year from what I've seen here in my history. You'll see at about 4 a.m. is usually the lowest time for any kind of police activity. Then, of course, the rush hour times, you'll notice that between 1 and 2 a.m., that's typically when the bars close. You'll see a spike there. Later in the evening hours between 8 and 9 o'clock are also the higher hours. Day shift, the hours you see there right in the middle of the chart, around noon, those stay pretty even across the board there. That chart doesn't change very much. And surprisingly, we've not seen any change in that due to COVID. Those numbers have stayed really pretty much the same on that chart, even with COVID, by the number of violations. Also, next year, one of the things we want to look at in training, we'll continue to follow any mandated requirements set forth by the Ohio Attorney General's office to meet any training standard that's set for the number of training and topics that they want us to attend. Right now, that's set by the state at 24 hours of training. So every one of our officers will attend 24 hours minimum in the coming year to meet that requirement. We're going to continue to have other officers train our fellow officers when they get back from this training so they can share what they know. A little bit more cost effectiveness when we can have a train the trainer type session. Training sergeant, Sergeant Vetter will help me in that regard to forecast training needs for the department. We'll continue to operate under the rule of organizational needs first before we send officers to other training topics. We will have every officer trained in our new records management system in 2022. This is going to be a huge step for our department. We are the last agency holdout in the county that is not on New World. This is going to be a huge step for us, the ability to share data. I know the fire department's excited about this too. Going to New World, we'll have GPS functions in the cars so that the dispatch center will be able to see where we're at all the time. It'll increase our dispatch effectiveness and times to know which car is the closest to the call, things like that. Also, the ability to share data, not only between us, but to Sugar Creek and any other agency in Greene County will have access to all that data, which will help our intelligence efforts quite a bit to help solve crimes. That's very exciting, and we've been looking forward to doing that. Types of crimes, let me find that right page. Here's one of the things that we did note that went up a lot during COVID, and that's that bottom right-hand portion of the pie chart is ID theft, identity theft. Huge increases in reports of workman's comp claims filed through the state of Ohio. I think that's pretty much statewide. That's been a common thing. The other thing is more fraud just based on they know people are at home with COVID. They know people are accessible. We've done a number of things on our Facebook page and other presentations trying to educate the public on fraud. That old adage of it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. So you're going to see much more of that this year too, with presentations like that. The other parts of the pie chart, pretty much unchanged. Those did not change much during the times of
Skip a slide, Steve.
COVID. No, you're fine. What am I up to here? Use of force? Are we at use of force? Or did I miss one?
Use of force?
Oh, let's go. No, let's do that. Let's do the bias-based policing.
I probably got them out of order.
Oh,
I
you're fine.
apologize.
The bias-based policing. This is a new requirement through OCLAAC where we're required to track interactions. When we have an arrest situation or a citation situation, we have to track the race of the person that we deal with. Okay. Again, this is to be totally transparent to the public that we serve. So there can be no misunderstanding, no bias to how our enforcement efforts are seen. This is the statistics that we compiled last year. This is exciting. Yeah, broke that again.
It top's a little loose up there.
It is a little bit. I will not
loose
lean
now.
on that. This is the data that we compiled from last year. As you see, it's pretty self-explanatory. This is something we will continue to track as part of the OCLAAC statistics. This will be reported in our yearly report. Use of force. I love this. We had 0 use of force incidents this past year. Again, a big part of this is probably COVID, but we had no incidents where we had to use force with hands-on, OC spray, baton or asp, taser, or firearm, thank goodness. Yep, 0s across the board. That's what I like to see. We will try and keep that there. Those numbers would be just fine for this coming year too. So, good numbers to have. One of my favorite portions here, the community policing. Your photo there on the left is Officer Stout, Officer Rubel, and Greg there. They're receiving commendations there next to Chief Daugherty for some of their outstanding work they did during the year. The gentleman on the right here, Pee-wee Martin, he's one of the original out of the 101st Airborne, Company G. I don't know if you're familiar with Band of Brothers. He's one of the last surviving members of the 100. He is the last. Elaine, thank you. He is one of the last. Wonderful gentleman. Very big supporter of us. And there you see Chief Daugherty speaking with him. They've met a couple times to talk about history and the exploits and what it means to serve. The next photo there is one of the football games. There you see Officer Warren and Officer Stout there with, I believe the mascot's name is Talon for the high school. That's always a fun time at the high school to root on the home team there. At the right, this is a lot of fun. Halloween, we dress up and go to Stephen Bell Elementary where we greet the kids. This is always very well received. As there you see our version of Spider-Man, McGruff the crime dog. And I don't know who that guy in the green is there with the furry green. I believe that's this gentleman in the back there, Mr. Chief Daugherty. And yours truly there holding the lightsaber there on the end. So lots of fun. Kids are very well received. And it's always fun to see the giggles and laughter and see what costumes the kids have come up with that year. On this page, you're going to see myself, the chief, Officer Rubel, and Tony, what's that young man's name that's in that photo? He's one of your neighbors? Oh, I can't see it. Can't see it? We saw a post on... yes, we saw Rakers. Tyler Rakers, I believe, is that his name? Yes. We saw a post come up on our Facebook page that said there was a lady there on Hillcrest Drive who said she was having a hard time finding somebody to shovel her drive. So I said, come on guys, let's go grab a shovel. Let's run down there and let's do her drive real quick. So we ran down there and we had it done in about 10 minutes. It was a lot of fun and very good exercise. So we got that done. It's a lot of fun. Another way we can serve our community. On the right there, you'll see a bunch of kids playing badminton with our fine officer here in the rear. Who won that game, by the way?
I believe we did girls versus boys.
Oh, girls versus boys. And you guys won? The girls won. Okay, good. Good. The right team won there. Again, this is just on patrol. He saw them playing badminton, so he thought he would stop and join in. Lots of fun. Here's Crime Dog McGruff greeting, I believe his name is Brantley, at Stephen Bell Elementary. Brantley, by the way, he was featured on our Facebook page here a couple weeks ago. He is a very big supporter of our department. He's always happy to see us in the morning, and that is one of the high points of our day, is greeting the kids at school in the morning. That is always a lot of fun. And so there he's in his police outfit greeting McGruff. And here's Ryan again on the right picture at Halloween, handing out candy to some kids there that are trick-or-treating. Again, that's another fun thing that we get to do, is drive around, make sure everybody's following the traffic laws. No kids are getting run over when they're doing their trick-or-treating. And the fun part is we get to hand out candy at the same time. So, successful year. We're hoping that COVID goes away completely so we can resume our community interactions, and another successful year.
Captain Carmen, thank you for the report. Very, very informative. I'm especially pleased to see the engagement with the community. That is such a big thing, and I think that's something that's attributable to our soon-to-be departing chief. But I think we've really made a mark by doing that. And in the citizens, I know my neighborhood, their reaction on the neighborhood police was the same thing. What's going on, you know? And they'll call my house because they see 3 officers walking up the street. And I said, well, they're just there to meet and talk to you. Go out and talk to them, say hi to them. And
Please
I think
talk to us,
that's really
yes.
been a great idea. I'm glad to see you guys getting back into it. And I would ask you, if you want to do some seminars and training on identity theft, we need to put that up front and center, because that's something
Yes,
that a lot of
absolutely.
our elderly folks are getting calls a lot and getting trapped into those goofy questions and identity theft and this, that, and the other. And it gets nasty pretty quick, and you never know it's a bad thing till it's already happened to you. So
Yes,
thank you very much for thinking about that.
Great, thank you. A quick mention. Very proud to have had this fine gentleman tutor me and be a leader for our agency the past 8 years. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you. Does anybody council have any questions for Captain Carmen?
I'd just like to make a few comments. Spoke to Chief Brown just a little bit this evening, and they're starting a bike patrol. You guys are leading the way.
It's a fantastic program. It gets us out in the community and gets us to meet people. Yes. Yep. Wonderful program.
Anything else on council?
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the report.
Thank you.
Chief Bizarro,
He wrecked it.
the podium's broken.
Apparently.
Where's Ryan?
Well, good evening, everybody. Council, Mayor, City Manager, I appreciate you guys having us here tonight. Tonight I get to do one of my favorite things, and that's brag about our fire department. We have one of the, I would like to say, one of the best fire departments in the county due to the dedication of the men and women that work for the city. So quick shout out to those guys. Tonight you're going to see a quick snapshot of everything that we completed this past year, starting with some of our general information here. Our staffing's built of part-time, full-time personnel. It works very well with our department, and so that's the staffing model there. We have 12 paramedics, 8 EMTs, and we have a medical director, Dr. Marriott, who works up at the Premier Group. He's the one that keeps us in line with all of our EMS skills and what we're allowed to do and not allowed to do. Our vehicles remain the same. We've got a ladder truck, 2 fire engines, 3 ambulances, 2 chief vehicles, and a support vehicle. And real quick, I'd like to thank you all for the approving the resolution for the new medic unit. That's going to be big stuff for our group, and I know that they put a lot of hard work into that, so thank you. Again, like everybody else, COVID. Where do we begin? Where do we end with that? Hopefully it's ending soon. Fortunately for us, starting in March, we started hosting a lot of our programs again that we had gone away from. CPR classes, ACLS classes, We were able to issue complete 34 CPR classes, 3 ACLS classes, and issued over 125 CPR cards just to the residents in the city of Bellbrook alone this past year. We always have CPR classes, so anytime anybody needs them, please do not hesitate to give us a call. Firefighter Simmons, she loves teaching those classes and does an awesome job with that. We also got 41 car seats installed. Again, that's just residents within the city. We're one of few fire departments in the area that still do car seat installs. The liability, training requirements, and commitment to that almost makes it impossible to continue that program. So we're one of few departments in the area that still does that, and that's pretty cool. Renee, again, does an awesome job with that. It takes about a half an hour. She gets in there, gets the car seat situated, and it definitely puts an ease to the new parents or the parents or grandparents that are going to be transporting their little loved ones. One of the things that we did new this year is for our school program, the coloring contest winners, we always gave a trophy away and a fire extinguisher, and they got to ride to school in a fire engine. So one of the things I decided to up the ante a little bit, instead of a nice fire extinguisher, which every 2-year-old, 3-year-old, or I guess grade school, elementary kid would love to have, is why don't we do breakfast with the firefighters? So we had the winners of the coloring contest come in, and they got to eat breakfast with the guys. They made an awesome breakfast for the kids, and then we finished it off with the ride to school in the fire engine, which they all love. So, next slide. Thank you. Some of the accomplishments that we were able to get done this past year. Firefighter Matthew Cunningham completed paramedics, and that's a big deal. That's almost a 2-year program in itself. It makes it harder and harder for volunteers to get in that role because of how long that program is. And that's full-time school that he's doing that. So that is a huge accomplishment to Matthew. So awesome job. We were able to hire a couple new members this past year, and then we had a couple service awards. Jason Harris got 15 years and Stephen Lawrence got 5 years. One of the other things we were able to do is send Lieutenant Nickerson and firefighter Renee to a driver operators program. So now we have a certified driver operator on every shift. So as we get new members, we can get them trained and up to speed on driving that big apparatus. All right, now the fun stuff. So this past year, we did a total of 703 calls, 703 calls. We were down 17 calls. I do relate our decrease to COVID, and that's across the board in the fire service. A lot of the fire departments are all down in their numbers. People are listening to the messages that are out there. If they're not truly sick, they're not going to the hospitals, and that's good. So they did a great job. Our citizens in Bellbrook, I can't say enough about them. We don't have anybody that misuses our system here like some of the other communities do. Our people, when they're sick, they call, and that's what we like to do, and really make sure we can take care of them and not be overtaxed with calls that may not be appropriate. Next slide. So our runs by area. This really hasn't changed any over the last several years either. Area 3 is our biggest area. Makes sense, it's our largest area. So 23% of the calls to Area 3. The other number that's kind of staggering there is our calls for mutual aid. 13% of our calls go to our neighboring departments that we provide service to. Next slide. So EMS incidents, we did 433 calls for EMS. Illness is always the big one just because it's the bigger category. You have strokes in that, people that are sick. Whatever doesn't fit in any of the other categories gets dumped into illnesses. So that's our largest number there. One of the things that the department's been doing for many, many years is we send out a survey to every customer that we touch. And whether that's going out to do a car seat inspection or helping them up off the ground or taking care of a loved one in a time of need. And then we get those surveys back, and they typically have lots of comments, good comments on there, which is at the bottom of the report that was sent out. But with those comments, 98% satisfaction rate on our services, and I'm very pleased about that. 98%, everybody is happy with our service that we provide of those that we collect. So, next slide, please. So, fire statistics, 270 calls for service. Our fire department is, or our city is very fire safe. And I have to give hats off to Lieutenant Narker for this. He does an awesome job with our fire prevention programs, from going to the schools to the parks, just doing home inspections and everything like that. So our fire loss inside the city is extremely low. In fact, this past year we had a total loss of $12,600. $1,800 was due to a residential fire. $10,200 was due to a vehicle fire, and then we had a $600 loss, and that was related to a DP&L line that I guess they had some issues with. So yeah, so our fire numbers are very good and very safe there. Next slide, please. So calls for day of the week. Friday this year was our biggest day of the week. We could sit here and throw a dart at this and get a different answer every year what's going to be our busiest day. There's no rhyme or reason to it. The last year it was Monday, so it just happened to be Friday this year. 17% of our calls occurred on Friday. Next slide. Same way with this one. I'd like to tell you that there's a rhyme or reason to when people call for our services, but they don't. So this year, between 12 to 4 was the busiest time for us, and that was 23% of the calls. All right, so I talked a little bit about it earlier, mutual aid. So in 2020, we gave mutual aid out 70 times. This year it increased to 90 times. I know that I said earlier that everybody's call volume seems to be down. Personnel across some of our neighboring communities is also down. So relying on their neighbors is a little more important than in the past. So that's why is what I believe the reason our mutual aid is up. We received it 21 times in 2020, and this year we received it 25 times. So for our mutual aid coming in, those numbers include how many different agencies come in. So we had a structure fire. So that brings in 3 additional departments. So instead of 1 mutual aid call, we have 3 mutual aid numbers to that because it's a different department for those 3. So the good thing here is that we are definitely giving out more mutual aid than what we're receiving. So we're able to handle our own calls. Some of the times that we do receive that mutual aid is because we have back-to-back calls, and we'll have to rely on our neighbors to help us out. Next slide, please.
Chief, real quick,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt. The labels for some reason didn't copy over when I pasted. What are the labels underneath, like the 61? Are those?
Sure, absolutely.
What are the difference?
So the
different columns.
Yep. So starting on your far left, the 3 to 1, these are the different departments that we gave mutual aid to. The first one's going to be Beaver Creek. We gave 3 medic calls to Beaver Creek and then 1 fire call that we responded to. The next one, Spring Valley, we responded 4 times on medic calls and 0 fire calls. The big number there is our closest neighbors, and that's Sugar Creek. We responded 61 times on medic calls to help our neighbors in Sugar Creek. And then we also responded 15 times with a fire apparatus on fire calls to their community. And then the last one on the right is Washington Township. We went 5 times with a medic and then 1 time for a fire. The ones on the bottom on the far left, we had Spring Valley come in for us on 1 fire call. Sugar Creek, we had them come in on 13 EMS calls and 9 fire calls that they came in and assisted us. And then the last one's going to be Washington Township. They came in for 1 medic call and 1 fire call.
Quite a ratio.
Next slide, please. All right, average response times. We missed a little bit on this one too, but that's okay. So the fire department follows an NFPA standard. It's 1710, and that's times required to get out the door, en route time, how long does it take to process the call from dispatch to notifying the crews. And I'd like to say that we're well below those standards that are required. So I give hats off to those guys. They get a monthly report on where they stood on each shift on how they did on times. And it's now become almost a bragging right between the three shifts on who can get out the door the fastest so they can beat the other shift's times. So just for knowledge here, so NFPA says that dispatch to en route should be 1.33 minutes or less. We're under 1.27 is what we're coming in as. Then en route to on scene, we're supposed to be 4 minutes or less. The fire department here is 2 minutes and 41 seconds that it takes us to get out the door and on scene inside the city. And most of those calls, they do go non-emergency. I am a huge component of not blowing lights and sirens everywhere on calls inside our community. We've proven time and time, and here's the numbers, that we can get anywhere in the community just as quick without lights and sirens as we can with lights and sirens. Sure, there's calls that warrant the lights and sirens, but the majority of our calls inside the community do not. It's a lot safer for all of our members and the community members. So there's that. And then our call processing time, 2 minutes is what it takes to process the call from Greene Central from the time the call comes in till they notify us. And Greene County does a great job of 1 minute and 39 seconds on processing the times for us. Last slide. So lastly, I just want to thank you guys, the citizen, for the continued support, and the community also for continuing to support us. The men and women of this department make my job very easy, and I have to give them the credit for all this because if it wasn't for them, I couldn't come up here and give you an awesome report. So I really do appreciate what they do every day to make our community safe. So again, thank you to council and the citizens for your continued support. Any questions?
Chief, thank you very much. I appreciate the report, and I think it just goes to show we had another great year in the fire department, even with the word that rhymes with Ovid and begins with C. Questions, comments of council?
Excellent report, Chief. Really appreciate the work you do.
Thank you.
You know, I just go back for a level 2
Yeah.
for a small, it's amazing. You're still there.
Yep. For a department our size to keep that statistic bragging rights, in the big scheme, it doesn't do a whole lot for our little community other than bragging rights, since we don't have a lot of industry in the city or any industry. But it is quite a bragging right that we can hang our hat on, that we can keep an ISO 2 and be in the top 3% of the nation.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anything else on council? Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief. Great job.
Next up, Service Director Ryan Paisley.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Get my readers on here. Okay, so I'll start off with water production. Just under 300 million, which is right on par for the last 10 years or so. We had billed 264 million in metered bills, which leaves it at about a 10.8% loss, which is your water main breaks, your service leaks, your hydrant flushing, stuff like that. Last year was a little bit less of a loss, but it's all in how we flush, and we flush it pretty good just to clear the pipes. And again, so yeah, 10 water main breaks. So in October we flush, and we're pushing close to 700 fire hydrants. We'll oil them. And this includes what's in the Sugar Creek Township, because we do have a lot in Sugar Creek Township. We replaced 4 hydrants. So 10 water main breaks. That's kind of low. It's usually around 15, but we'll take it. And just a note. On the far left, a lot of people have never seen transite water main, which is asbestos cement. I put that on there just so you get a feel. It's not metal. And we have a lot of that downtown, and it's really hard to work around. I just wanted to point that out. So our water system, so we're a Class 1 public water supply. We obtain an unconditional license to operate, meaning we don't have any restrictions. You know, it's pretty simple. We pump, we chlorinate, we fluoridate, we have a little corrosion control. It's real simple. We have 5 staff members that have a Class 1 water supply license and 1 Class 2. We're only required to have a Class 1. The Class 2 is a little bit of icing on the cake, I guess. Okay, so snow removal. So we keep track of this pretty close. We had 19 snow and ice events. The crews drove 4,368 miles. We used 491 tons of salt, and we also sell salt to Sugar Creek schools, Bellbrook Sugar Creek schools. Over 1,000 gallons of fuel used and 366 labor hours just in snow and ice removal.
Thank you for that.
We do kind of brag on ourselves, coming to town in the morning and, Upper Bellbrook is icy or snow covered, and you get to the Corp line and it's black,
Absolutely.
See
it often.
Oh, yeah. So the annual paving project, fortunately, we were able to pave a little more last year than the previous year. Sable Ridge Drive, Northfield, Glenberry Circle, Kensington Drive, Poston Drive, Cedar Court, and Plantation Trail. And we're working on a list for this year. We'll see how the numbers come in from Greene County.
Good.
So work orders, we kind of base our work day with different types of work orders. So utility locate requests, we go out and we mark our water main, water services, and storm sewer. We had 1,677 of those last year. We had 1,708 water service work orders, finals, check for leak, anything that has anything to do with a water service. And then 1,324 general work orders, whatever that may be, to help someone, at the library with whatever they have, or museum for that matter. So we have our highlighted projects. So the Crescent Court culvert relining, which turned out great. They were in here and out in about 3 days, and that saved us from cutting the street open. The Tower 1 repainting. So they were here for about 3 weeks. It's really neat to see. Brett actually ran into a resident that lived on Sonoma Court, and he had a drone, and he was taking the drone up. That's what some of these pictures are. Taking a drone up and taking pictures of the guys painting. So we had the meter reading software upgrade. The one that we used, Read Center, it was out of date. In fact, it wouldn't even run on a computer that didn't have Windows 7 on it. So we were able to upgrade that. And then finance utility billing software change, which I'm still learning that, to be honest with you. It's still part of it. Yep. That's really all I have. I know I went quick. But again, thanks for your support.
We appreciate the report and thanks for what you do for us. I know in the wintertime it's always so nice that I just don't fear the bad roads in Bellbrook. When you get outside of Bellbrook, you're on your own. But
yeah, the ice storm we had was a little iffy, but we took care of it.
And then we dodged a bullet last Friday a little bit too on
did.
everything. Good job. Any questions of council for the service director?
I just like to make a comment. We just we're buying some more hydrants. Service department's always been ahead, looking ahead, maintaining things before we have actual events. I appreciate that. It saves a lot of hassle, boil alerts, all that stuff. It just makes life easy. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I never realized we had 700 hydrants that we maintain.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
If you had asked me, I probably said 50 or 60.
Right. Right. It's crazy when you see a map.
Again, thanks so much for the report. Appreciate it. Thank you.
I just want
Oh, go ahead, Elaine. Sorry.
I just want to tell Ryan in front of everybody that the garden club loves you.
It's my guys.
You make our job, we do the planting and trimming and everything, but you make our job so much easier because you do the stuff that takes muscle.
Yeah. Well, we're happy to do it.
We thank you.
Thanks,
One
Elaine.
last thing, what you guys do, we all take for granted, but it is well appreciated.
Thank you.
We don't see it that often, but we
Thanks.
appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Brady.
Thank you.
Thank you. The new guy on the block.
New guy. Thank you, Mayor, members of council. I'm going to be shorter than Ryan because I wasn't here last year to be able to give a report. But what I was able to find, 124 permits issued, 49 code violations that were inspected. The BZA/PRC heard 8 cases. Planning Board heard 9 cases. And the Village Review Board heard 10 cases. Go to the next slide. So what I can talk about is what's new in 22. With the help of the city manager, we were able to acquire a software called iWork. And what iWork is an all-inclusive permitting and code enforcement database. So I can, or anyone in the city, can go in, if someone calls in and has a question about a permit or a code violation, any one of us can enter anything into the computer at any time. I can print permits, print letters for code violations, and then a really cool feature is it will have a outward-facing portal, a public-facing portal. So any citizen will be able to log on to iWork.net and be able to look at a current permit that they have, apply for a new permit, or send me a concern they may have about a property in the city. So what this does for me and the goals that I've set is it allows for a 48-hour review time for permits for new construction or a residential permit, a 48-hour response time on any complaint I receive or a follow-up inspection. And it frees up a lot of time for me to be able to go out in the public, like the police department, and talk to people and help them help themselves. Make their property look nicer for their neighbors, to help keep property values up, and that way maybe you good folks won't have to hear as many calls. So with that said, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
You know, Jason, you've been here how long? Since?
About 6 weeks.
About 6 weeks. And this guy truly hit the ground running, and I've been impressed with what you've done, the work product since you've been here in such a very short period of time. Heavily involved in Article 14, which we'll soon see. He went through and cleaned it up and redlined it, and we've got the versions that we would expect to see, but I think he did that right away, and he's made some of these things a priority, so thanks for what you do.
Thank you, Mayor.
Questions or comments of council for Mr. Foster?
I just had a quick comment, because you and I chatted earlier. If somebody has an issue with a neighbor or something, they don't want to cause a big stink in the neighborhood, is it anonymous if they make a complaint, or how does that work?
So anyone can make a phone call to me. If you make a phone call, it can remain anonymous. I'm not going to ask what your name is or where you live. If you send me an email, that's not so anonymous. But yes, it's very easy. We have a portal on our website to be able to file a complaint or a concern with the property. You can also call, of course, or you can send me an email, and I will be happy to respond to all of those.
Anything else of council?
I think the improved software, ability to use the computer, everything's there. People can check. It saves a lot of time. Saves a lot of questions. Saves a lot of your time, everybody's time. And I'm glad you're here. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Jason, I appreciate you being on staff. Thanks so much.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions, comments? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
And I'll just quickly run through a couple of highlights again, about a 25,000-foot view. All the information that you heard tonight with the police, fire, and other departments are also contained in more detailed annual type of reports, but this, for presentation purposes, we've just kind of highlighted. So for HR within the city, there's 33 full-time employees, 24 part-time. We've welcomed several new employees within 2021. One of which is with us tonight. Seems like I'm sure already integrated in the organization so much. It's like she's no doubt been here for a decade or so, which she would have had to start when she was 4 if that was the case, right? So, and we welcome a new officer, of course, Officer Burns, and as the chief mentioned, there were some additional members to the fire department, replacements for that. Going over briefly some personnel expenses, I'll start tapping into just overview of financial part of the admin. We spend roughly $410,000 in medical insurance expense. That's the employer-based premium plus HSA contribution. Of course, the employee kicks in a portion beyond that. We spend about $10,000 for our portion of dental vision each year. We do offer life insurance for each employee. They can add to it if they so choose. And then about 187, almost 188 in other expenses such as Bureau Workers' Comp, Medicare, etc. Looking at full-time wages, including overtime, we're a little more than 2.5 million for the entire city. We spend nearly 300,000 in part-time wages. We also spend about 475,000 for pension. That's the city expense for PERS and Ohio Police and Fire pension. Social Security was covered in the other benefits. We do cover Social Security payments for part-time firefighters. They don't pay into police and fire. So our total personnel expense is a little more than $3.9 million out of our annual budget. And that was, and these were actual expenses for 2021. Expenses by fund for 2021, within our general fund, about 787,000. We spent about 60,000 in CARES. We've not yet spent ARPA. In our streets operating portion, which is comes from the tax base, about 165,000. We also receive additional funding within streets operations from water, motor vehicle, and state highway. Police operations outside of personnel is about 295,000. Fire, you can see a little more than 200,000. Again, our motor vehicle license, we were able to spend money out of that. Capital was 306 in 2021. Our waste collection, which of course is our waste hauling contract, we collect for that, but then we spend out 459 in operations for waste collection, which basically pays the contract for that. And then in water, just operations, on that fund, 683,000. So if we look at our total expenses, it was about 7.1 million in 2021. Our total revenue collected was a little more than 7.5 million. As you recall, we made some adjustments to the budget later in the year. Once we kind of balance and reconcile things, because of that, we were able to carry over about 428,000 from this year into a variety of funds. Again, the breakdown of that will be in our financial statement and our detailed reports coming forward, but these are the snapshots that's coming in. And again, these are categorized for this presentation summary. Some of the numbers and the splits of it will look different from our gap conversion, from our basic financial statement that we're working on now with our accounting firm, which will be audited. So I just wanted to throw that in. Out of that, we wrote about 1,340 checks, so we processed that many payments through in a year's time. That excludes paychecks. That's just payments to vendors to keep the operations of the city up. Various things from buying salt to buying office supplies to buying tasers or whatever it might be. So the accounting and processing portion of Melissa's job is quite intense and keeps her busy for sure. Some legislative activity over 2021. We had 20 regular council meetings, had 7 work sessions and 4 special meetings. Within all that, we had 10 ordinances adopted, 31 resolutions adopted in the course of the legislative business for 21, and 6 planning board meetings, 5 VRB meetings, and 5 BZA and PRC meetings in the course of 2021. So pretty busy time for the legislative side of the administration. For overall administrative projects, we completed, of course, the streetscape study, processed and delivered a final report. As we know, that was almost a year-long thing, from grant application through selecting the firms, or the firm, I should say, to working with them all the way down to our community forum, working with council and delivering that final report and presentation. We completed a conversion of accounting data into our new software, and that also includes reconciling the accounting into the new system. That literally was almost to the end of the year type of activity for us. And as Ryan mentioned earlier, we're all still kind of learning the system, but reconciling things, we had to pick up a bit of a gap in time for that. Once I got on board after the cut over to the new system, and but thankfully our software company worked diligently with us, and I can't say enough about Michaela and Melissa for the countless hours that they've spent going through literally printed out data from the old system to make sure that the new system is up and running, and still today making sure that things are balanced. I'm the one that should be worried about it, but they worry even more than me. So if you ever need somebody to keep your checkbook, these are the two that you want for sure. So they're very diligent, and it's a good example of of the level of consciousness that all the employees have with the taxpayers' dollars and the services that they provide. Everybody's very conscientious about that, and with a high amount of integrity. We designed a new public media and agenda management system. Of course, we've launched it into 2022, but the work putting that together to identify how to make it work and design within the website and which particular system to use started later into last year. That included designing a new technology for streaming, indexing, and archiving our public meetings on video. Although we just launched that within the last few weeks, that was work that the project that was basically completed in 2021. But once stuff was ordered, it took a bit for some of the equipment to come in and get going. And we finalized, although it's not yet installed, but we finalized the upgrade in council chambers. Hopefully tonight. I haven't heard the static. So we continue to work on that. But once all the equipment is in, the video and the audio for that and our streaming is going to be second to none, without a doubt. With that, I would just note that you can see the passion and the commitment and all the department heads and the employees bring to being able to talk about what they do to contribute to the operation of this community. And I know Council's proud of the work that this local government provides its community. And I just want to make sure that all residents, businesses alike, can rest assured that when the need is for us to provide a service or assist in any way, it's done with the highest level of professionalism and integrity. And we want to make sure to do nothing but continue to increase and sustain a high quality of life and service for everybody within the community. So we appreciate the opportunity to do that.
Robin, I want to thank you. I mean, you put together an excellent staff. I'm always impressed by what you do. And you think about the City of Bellbrook, our budget is usually a little bit less than $8 million, 7 something, whatever. Basically, 30 or 50% of that budget, you think you said 3.9 million, is all personnel cost. And that's the people that run the city on a day-to-day basis. And I think that's a pretty good leverage of paying those folks and what we get done and how we put things together in the city. The other 50% is buying capital equipment, buying the supplies day-to-day. So we've got a tight budget, but Rob does a good job with the staff of keeping things organized and making sure we don't overspend anything. And the other thing, too, to make a comment on, we talk about being new. I mean, Rob has just barely completed 6 months with the City of Bellbrook. I think he's done a pretty awesome job acclimating to everything and catching up on what's going on. I was worried about bringing a new city manager. I don't think we skipped a beat. I want to thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Comments of council?
Totally agree with Rob. How he put it all together so fast. Make my head spin.
Absolutely.
Got
Anybody
great
else?
people, great community, great processes in place. It wasn't too large of a
You
feat.
got it.
Yeah.
I was going to say, when you look at the fire, the police, service, zoning, everything, it's what makes Bellbrook such a great place to live. We've got a great system.
I'd like to thank you, Rob, all the work you do. You're always working. Everybody appreciates it. I'm glad you brought in the admin personnel. They work hard, not necessarily known that much, but I appreciate you bringing them up.
Yes.
Anything else? Good report, Rob. Thanks so much. Moving on, committee reports. We'll start off with safety.
I think safety and service has been pretty well covered tonight, Mayor.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Thanks, Forrest. Moving on, finance audit. Catherine.
I was actually going to talk about the same thing that the commissioners talked about when I went to their meeting. They talked about the ARPA money and the funds that were going to be available for not-for-profits. I'm not going to reiterate what I learned at their meeting, but I think that's something that we could possibly tap into. We have our funds, but if we can get additional funds for the cities or the not-for-profits, we definitely want to take a look at what Greene County commissioners are offering to the folks.
In Greene County, with the CARES Act money, had a program whereby they provided funding for a lot of small businesses, and we had in excess of 20 or 30 businesses in downtown area that took advantage. And I think the max was 10,000, but we got some decent money for some of our resident businesses. Anything else, Catherine?
No, sir.
Thank you. Elaine, Community Affairs.
I don't have anything new tonight.
Thank you. We have no bids to discuss. Again, item 13 is one of those items in the rules of council that will probably not keep as part of the official agenda moving forward, but we'll get to that soon. Moving on to old business. First off, we have an appointment of a council member. We have the unexpired term remaining for the period ended 12/31/2023. we have any we had 2 applicants for that. We interviewed both of them. At this point in time, I'd like to open the floor for nominations for the appointed council member to resume that unexpired term.
I'd like to nominate T.J. Hoke.
Thank you. Can we have a second?
Seconded.
Thank you. We have a nomination and a second for T.J. Hoke. Do we have any other nominations? Any more? Seeing none, I will close the nominations. At that time, we have the nomination for one individual to fill the unexpired term and a second, and I guess we need to call the roll.
Yes, on a motion to appoint Mr. Hoke for the council appointment, Mrs. Cyphers,
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood,
Yes.
Mr. Harding,
Yes.
Mrs. Middlestetter,
Yes.
Mayor Schweller.
Yes. I will talk to TJ, we'll get him connected. He will be here at the next meeting, so hopefully we'll have a full council as of our first meeting in March. Thank you. Deputy mayor election, again, we're waiting until we have our full council, so that'll be deferred until the March 14th meeting. And finally, item C is the amendment of 2022 council rules. I don't know if council wants to speak to these tonight or if they'd prefer to defer them. I'm all for deferring.
Let's defer.
We'll bring those up, we'll carry those forward. And again, Rob has provided a pretty good document to kind of work from, and I think if we go back and look at it, I know we've had a lot of things going on, but maybe our next meeting or one after, we can dig into that a little bit. But he's gone through and redlined the changes, and I think if you read it, a lot of the changes are pretty much self-sustaining. I mean, they make a lot of sense, and just the way it is. So we'll move on into new business. We have none. This time, public comments. We'll start off with public comment of council. Catherine?
I don't have any comments, sir.
Thank you. Forrest?
I think it's a great meeting tonight. All departments, really good reports, really appreciate it. And Doug Daugherty, I want to miss you. That's all I got.
Thank you. Brady?
No further comments.
Elaine?
I have nothing further.
I'll just reiterate what Forrest mentioned. I thought it was a good meeting, and Chief, you've been very valuable. You've been a real asset to the city. And I look forward to maintaining a relationship, and as you work with the county or the sheriff's department, but I mean, you've got some big shoes, and we'll get them filled though. But thanks so much for what you've done. We appreciate it. At this time, we'll open up the meeting to everybody in the viewing audience. You have 3 minutes. Give us your name and address, and please come up and speak at the podium. Going once? Going twice? We have none. Okay. At this point in time, this is going to conclude the meeting for our viewing audience. We're going to go into executive session to consider the appointment, employment, or compensation of a public employee. There'll be no decisions or formal actions taken after the executive session. We have a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Seconded.
Thank you.
Motion to enter executive session, Mrs. Cyphers,
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood,
Yes.
Mr. Harding,
Yes.
Mrs. Middlestetter,
Yes.
Mayor Schweller.
Yes.
Motion carries.
We want to thank everyone for attending tonight. And Louie, thank you for the great camera work. And there's still some cake and drinks in the back, so take advantage of it all. Thank you for attending. We had a good crowd, good turnout.
Thank you.